Good afternoon. Okay, just a little blurb here as usual about this time about your date last insured, DLI. This is very important for anyone who ever is considering applying for Social Security disability. It is not relevant if you are only eligible for SSI, which is supplemental security income and is not Social Security. So if you are contemplating applying, or you already have, but you've never found out what your date last insured is, you need to find that out. If you're in search of an attorney or someone to represent you, they're going to want you to know that too, if they know what they're doing. So the way you can find out the date last insured, let me just give you that first, is to call 1-800-772-1213. That is a menu-driven national hotline number for the SSA. So if you press the buttons and wait long enough, you'll get a live body, generally. And when you do, you're going to identify yourself as per their questions, and then ask them for your date last insured, DLI. It's the date last insured for Social Security disability insurance. Now, people say, what does it mean and why is it relevant? Well, like any other term insurance of sorts, once we stop paying in our premiums, we ultimately become uninsured. It's true with our health insurance. It's true with our car insurance. It could be true if you have life insurance. You have to pay every month to continue it. Same is true with Social Security disability insurance. People just don't recognize it as much, probably because for anyone who's a W-2 employer, the taxes are paid kind of automatically. They're withheld from your paycheck, the one half that you are responsible for, and then the other half is automatically paid directly at the expense of your employer. Self-employed people pay their Social Security taxes through their filings in addition to their income tax, and they actually pay both halves, the half for the employee side and the half for the employer, since they are their own employer. I am one of these people. So we pay 12 something percent, whereas someone who works for an employer as a W-2 worker only pays half that amount. One of the detractions of self-employment, but there are other benefits, so we all love it. Okay, so when you don't pay your premiums, there's going to be a time limit on any insurance where the amount you paid for runs out. With Social Security disability, that time period can be anywhere from, in the past, it's already ran out, and I'll get to that in a minute, or it could be anywhere from 1 quarter, meaning 3 months into the future, or up to 5 years in the future, depending on your prior work history of the last several years. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds about how to figure that out, because it would be too much here. But if you ever need that information, it can be figured out also. It can also be figured out what you need to do to extend your DLI in case you plan on filing in the future and your DLI has run out or is soon to run out. So when you find out your DLI, if it's in the past and you've never filed for Social Security disability insurance before, you are going to have to prove through the medical evidence that you became disabled at a time period before your DLI date and not after. Okay, so from the time you stopped working substantially, and that's a term of art, it might mean when you stopped working full-time. It might mean when you went from full-time to part-time, if that kind of work fell under substantial gainful activity, which is a monetary amount. So you'll have to prove through medical records from that window of time that the medical records show that you were unable to work full-time any further. Okay, so if it's in the future, it's obviously a little bit easier. Not that it's ever easy, but when it's in the past, you can't go to the doctor today to prove a past fact. So letting your DLI run out puts a lot of burden on you, in addition to the very burdensome threshold you have to meet to prove that you are disabled from performing virtually all jobs in the national and regional economy. So definitely something you need to know, because then you're going to look back, and if you find out, you realize that you never actually saw a doctor, and certainly not robustly like is really necessary during any of the time frame of your window, you might realize that it's going to be an uphill battle, if not an impossible battle. You might want to consider then how to regain your insured status so that you can file for Social Security disability. And that's a really important factor a lot of people don't consider. A lot of attorneys don't discuss it. You can get back insured status. It's going to take effort. It's going to take some working, but it's going to take very minimal working. So if you have any questions on that, you know where to reach me. But I like to see everyone have their insured status, because the alternative, if you're disabled and you don't have it during the relevant time period and you can't prove, then you will be on SSI welfare. And while that's a really wonderful program that's really needed, in my opinion, it's not usually the best for any particular individual. The SSDI program is better for more than one reason. Okay, so past DLI, it's a problem. It's a hurdle. It's a challenge that you may or may not be able to meet depending on your specific situation. I do take remote DLIs, and when we say remote, we mean remote in the past. I take them if I think there might be a basis for being able to prove it. Sometimes I take them when there isn't one, but I'm praying that we can develop one with some creativity, because the person is very deserving. I recently had a first responder case where the disability started 15 years ago. The DLI was over 10 years ago. No, I'm sorry, it was like 8 years ago. And the medical records were not complete, and we would be unable to get all of them, but we got a lot, and we were able to tie it together. And it was one of those, I call it my 1% cases. I took it knowing there was like a 1% chance of prevailing, but I thought it was a really important way for me to help pay back to this first responder in the 9/11 terrorist attack. And I'm so glad I did it. It was a bit of an uphill battle, but it was well worth it in terms of personal satisfaction for someone who deserves. So now if we have a future DLI, much better. That means that you still have opportunity to treat to get your case where it needs to be, to prove everything that is stopping you from being able to work full time. Okay, so that window is so critical, and you need to use it. You have to make using it your full-time job, basically, is the way I look at it. So now there's one little hitch here. If you have filed and went all the way through and were denied, and you have a remote DLI, and that denial, say by an ALJ, which was never successfully appealed further, if that denial date by the ALJ is after your date last insured, you are very, very likely not going to be able to file another SSD case claim, because the ALJ's decision, which was not appealed successfully, is now the rule of your case. You are not disabled at any time prior, and they're not allowed to, let you try it twice. So that is the end of that. And if that's the case, that's where if you're poor enough, you might be able to file for SSI welfare. And I do handle those. And I should add that I do them nationwide, both kinds of cases. I have clients in all states at various different times. So if you need to reach out, even if you're from a different state, that's fine. No worries. You really need to use that time, though, after a remote DLI to bolster your evidence. You might be using it to get that part-time work, to get your credits back, to get insured again for SSD. And you can even be or fighting for SSI while working part-time. Again, there's very significant parameters there. I'm happy to work with somebody to do that while we have a pending case together, to explain how they can do that. Because again, a lot of people are going to want to be on Social Security disability insurance rather than SSI for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is what doing so will benefit your retirement benefit, as opposed to it slowly diminishing as we speak because you're not working while you're under the retirement age. So all confusing stuff, but DLI, make sure you call that 800 number, 1-800-772-1213, and get your date last insured. It's going to be really important for any lawyer that you call, okay? And if you need to call me, the number is 201-317-0610. Feel free to leave a message if I don't pick up, which is most likely, and I will certainly call you right back. All right. Have a great day. Have a great holiday. It is now very close to Christmas of 2022. So I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday if you celebrate anything other than Christmas. Be well, everybody.